everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Maze and today we're going to be finishing up the statue stand. So this is where we left off. You have to pretty much make the panels, carve out the panels and make the pillars. And so in order to do that, we're going to have to get out there and make some dust. So I ripped me off a piece of alder and then I resaw a little bit more than a 1/4 inch off of each side, and then I edge joint it, and then I plane it down to about 1/4 inch. So with the milling done, I could then cut it down to size. I'm cutting it down to the right height here. I'm making sure that my glue joint stays centered. Then I could cross cut them to length and then put the 45-degree angle on the side. So the plan is to carve a pattern into the alder that you'll be able to see the maple through so that it pops with the contrast of the two woods. Now these two woods, the contrast is a little bit more subtle than I normally go for, but the alder matched the color of the wood on the base of the statue real well, so that's why we ended up going with that one. So we decided to take most of our decorative elements from Gothic cathedrals, and so you can see me drawing up the pattern here. If you want an in-depth tutorial on how to draw this particular pattern with just a compass and a straight edge, I have a video on that. This is just a quick version, and so I actually added a little bit to it. So I used the same roadmap and I picked a point that was equal distance away from the center line, and then I made my little Gothic arches to add an extra leaf to the trefoil. So I drilled my holes and I cut as much of it out as I could on the scroll saw, and then cleaned it up a little bit with some files. Went down to my line and just made sure it was nice and even and smooth and got rid of my saw marks. So then I start using knives and chisels to start carving out the pattern. The first step is to lower the parts that need to be lowered to start setting up different levels of the different parts of the pattern. So this one only has 2 levels, so right now I'm just lowering the inside level. It comes out looking like that. And then I use a gouge to start putting chamfers in the different levels and smoothing everything out. The only things I used to carve out these designs was a flat chisel, a chip carving knife, and this gouge. You don't really need much in the way of chisels to start carving some nice patterns. So that's it pretty much roughed out. Then I go back and I start smoothing it out and refining it a little bit. And I pretty much let the pattern kind of tell me how it wants to go. I have an idea of what I want, but it never usually ends up being that way. I'll always end up changing my mind halfway through as the pattern kind of presents itself and kind of tells me what looks good. And so there's the rough pattern, and you can see here how I'm going to put it on the maple and how the maple is going to come through and make it pop. So then I was thinking about doing some stuff to the sides with some scrolls, but then I was looking at these pictures of these different pillars and doors, so on the sides I decided to use that pattern as my inspiration. So it's pretty much the same pattern from here on. You go to the scroll saw, cut out what needs to be cut out, and then you clean it up with some files. And then you start getting the different layers going. I like to separate them with a knife, a carving knife first, and kind of establish a knife wall. And then I use the chisel to start lowering my levels. And then I use the gouge to start smoothing everything out, the different layers, smooth them into each other, and round things over and add chamfers and give it some dimension. So I ended up liking that pattern so much I kind of did away with the scroll idea and added those to the main panel. So here I am cutting them out on the scroll saw. And then I carved them out like I did on the rest of them. So I sanded everything to 220. And here's pretty much how we ended up. I was quite happy and pleased with how it turned out. And then I used epoxy, because I didn't want any glue squeeze out, to glue them to the sides of the base, the statue stand. So then it's time to think of what I was going to do with the pillars on the corners. And first thing I did was carve out this kind of intricate enclave looking thing with the Virgin Mary in it, but it was just kind of too much. So then I tried some Gothic buttresses, but I still wasn't happy with it. And so I tried to make it a little bit simpler, and I was a little bit happier with that. And then I refined it a little bit more and settled on this design. So it just goes to show you that intricate and, decorative is not always the way to go. Sometimes simple is the way to go. So I cut my little pillar to length, and then I cut them to width, testing them on the actual piece. And then it's just a matter of cutting some 45-degree angles off of the front, and then cutting the top at a 45-degree angle as well. And then I was pretty much done. It was sanded everything down, hand sanded everything to 220. And then I sprayed everything with a couple of coats of shellac. I used some maple plywood to fill in the bottom, and it was done. And here's how it came out. I was quite happy with it. It has like a temple kind of churchy look, which I think fits the statue real well. Like I said, I had envisioned different things on the sides, but what I ended up settling on I think looked better than what I had envisioned. So you gotta always let the piece have its say, and it will never steer you wrong. And then here it is at the customer's house with the statue on it. The base of the statue and the stands, the tone of the wood matches real well, and I was quite pleased with the way it turned out, and so was the client. And that's the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it and enjoyed it and maybe learned something. Tell me in the comments down below what you think, if you think it turned out good. And go ahead and hit that thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more stuff like this, click the subscribe button. And thanks for watching. Support your local craftsmen, or get out in your workshops and make your own dust.